La da 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 da. Smoke dingers every day.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Over there is Justin. I am Jeff. I want to thank you for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is you get podcasts. I also want to say we have your team covered every day. Without much more ado, let's just dive into a weekend of apparently the Guardians can only win a series on a weekend. That's a big takeaway. I'm just going to close it up. Go Guardians, go.
The Guardians don't mind working on the weekend, apparently. That's fine. That's good for all of us.
Everybody's working. They're working for the weekend. They're working on the weekend instead of.
That's right. We work for the weekend. They work on the weekend. That's good. No, it was a good weekend. We're going to talk about how confident we're feeling about things. Jeff, they won two. I know it wasn't pretty, and it took some magic. It took a little smoke and mirrors, but they won 2 or 3 series on this homestand. They went 5-4. I know it's not fantastic, but if you're looking at baby steps, maybe that is the way to go. And they hit some home runs. I mean, geez, they have 23 home runs now, and they had 4 of them this weekend. And look, they won 2 games. Apparently, Jeff, hitting home runs is good. I know people keep trying to say that, hitting home runs isn't everything. Well, it might be. Without home runs, you're talking about a sweep at the hands of the Angels.
Yeah, I mean, the home runs carried them in this one, and the offense still really wasn't there. Let's be honest. I know there was the big glow up on Saturday, but it was still a lot of. It was dependent on the home run. I mean, you see more than Sunday than any other day, where it's Bybee is brilliant, and then they get kind of lucky, honestly, that game was tied at that point, and then they get extra lucky that the Angels managers apparently doesn't pay attention to baseball and decided, hey, let's bring in a right hand. I understand the basic logic of bringing in your best reliever, but man, you got to know platoon splits. You can't walk into that one.
Yeah, I mean, Naylor was good. It was a good weekend from him. He carried them all weekend. He hit a home run off a lefty, and that's probably going to buy him a lot more time. But let's not be too pessimistic about that right now. Let's see where this goes. He has been getting unlucky for some time now. The numbers had suggested he was going to be better. And I don't even know if X stats really tells you hey, this guy's going to turn it around. It really tells you what happened. I don't know if it's a great predictor of future success. I'd like for somebody to do a piece and say when guys have X stats that suggest that they should be playing or performing better, getting better results, at some point they do, because are X stats predictive? I don't know. They're certainly very good at telling the story of what happened and what could have happened, like someone got unlucky, but I don't know if they necessarily tell you.
I mean, by their nature, they should be somewhat predictive because of that. It should be predictive because it's saying the expectation is, which is similar to FIP and the other predictive stats. So by the nature of what they are, they should be.
Well, I mean, but also if you're talking about predictive stats, XFIP, for those who maybe don't follow the stat, expected fielding independent pitching. Fielding independent pitching reduces all the results for pitching down to home runs, strikeouts, and walks, which is what pitchers can control and nothing more. But when you talk about XFIP, which is expected FIP, fielding independent pitching, that normalizes home run rate, which you can't really always predict that, I would say.
Yes, and that's
a whole different topic. Yeah, we're digressing.
Well, I mean, and just for those who know, FIP is also predictive. So it's even though doesn't say expected, it is still expected. It's just the only difference is that normalized home run rate, which in my opinion makes XFIP trash. So throw it away. Hot take there. I never look at XFIP for that reason, because pitchers don't have the same home run rates. We know that as Guardians fans, but
right. But how about what Josh Naylor did the weekend though? If you're watching on YouTube, Sarah Lang's great MLB.com researcher, Naylor has 8 go-ahead home runs in the 8th inning or later since the start of 2021. 2 more than anybody else in Major League Baseball in that span. And I believe that stat goes a little bit deeper, doesn't it? He was the first person, I think, to do it 3 games in a row in MLB history.
That could be the case. The original thing I saw is that no one had done it in 3 games in 60 plus years. But then again, that was someone who, when I saw that story, they I I felt like they had taken Sarah's tweet and then not credited her. So I don't really
Don't do
know.
that,
I just, don't do that. They didn't give any creditation to where they got the info from. That just kind of made me leery, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
I need to see where you think you're getting, where your data is coming from, because I don't think you did that research yourself.
How about the pitching matchup on Sunday? I would say, obviously, they don't win this game without Bybee pitching as well as he did. He got its deepest start of his major league career. Facing old friend from high school, Patrick Sandoval. We talked about a little bit last week, though, but Tanner was a sophomore and Patrick was a senior, and they played for the Diablos. That was their team nickname. Fun to see two guys from the same high school and guys who have been friends with each other kind of go at it on the mound, and both of them pitched exceptionally well all day. But I would say this might have been Bybee. I know he had the good start against Colorado, but let's be honest, even though Colorado did take 2 from the Guardians, the Colorado Rockies are not a good franchise and they have a bad lineup. I think this is the best Bybee's look. I mean, the fastball was good. The changeup was great. Didn't really rely on the slider a ton, but the Angels also had a lot of lefties in the lineup. I thought he already retired the first 11 to start the game, I think. So, this was about as good as he's looked all year. He got Shohei Ohtani twice. That was a heck of a performance.
Yeah,
nothing earth-shattering about that, but I don't know. I think it's his best start so far.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be the people out there who will take the negative approach on it, which is, whoa, there's no Trout. And yes, that's true. But let's be honest, the only guy who was even able to remotely touch him was personal favorite of the show, or at least my first, Taylor Ward out there. But, they left him in maybe a little bit too long. And, Will Brennan, we'll get into him at some point. But so I thought for sure that when he made that dive, that it was in listening to the game, they thought it was foul as well, but it hit the line. So Brennan makes this dive. I didn't sit back and look at the expected data to see if he took a bad break or anything like that. Cradles the ball, gets up and throws Matt Tice out at second base. And that was a huge, that was a game changer, because that probably, instead of having a runner on first with 2 outs, you have runners on first and second with 1 out. And, we can talk about the fact that 99 comes in and he gets the out, but Miles Straw's quote was he thought it was a home run. I think 99 needs to send a thank you to whoever the wind god is in Greek mythology. I don't know. Is it Eros? It feels like it should be Eros, but like the wind, Josh Naylor hit it hard enough that the wind couldn't stop it. But it, according to Miles Straw's quote, like he ran back, he expected it to be out, and then it just died and just dropped straight down. So, somebody up there liked us. Let's put it that way. They wanted
Angels in the outfield, perhaps,
to win the duel of the Diablos. But Bybee was, no, not to roll over your statement, but I also want to say I couldn't help but watch this game without thinking about all the people who told me that Bybee needs to be sent down after last week and he's done. So that was in the back of my mind as well.
I don't think I saw those comments, and I'm glad I didn't, because that's wild. Because I'm not surprised at all, but I obviously love that he put that start in the rearview mirror pretty quickly, which I'm not surprised by, because that's just his mindset. Like he had probably the worst start of his minor league career, but the start before he got called up anyway. He had that was the game he had 5 walks, and that was the game that a certain fantasy baseball analyst was basing his entire evaluation of Tanner Bybee off of too. So I guess people love to be prisoners of the moment. I'm not surprised he put that in the rearview mirror really quickly. Some Angels in the outfield love the Guardians. Speaking of who Guardians we love or don't love, I don't know. Amed Rosario. I tweeted the other night, I said, Rosario is like some kind of bird. Like, he migrates south for the winter, and then he doesn't come back until it's about May or June. Like, takes the extra month, I guess. Like I said, most of us in Cleveland would love to skip April, because April's usually a terrible month in Cleveland anyway for a lot of things. But, it's usually not warm yet, and we still get like maybe a last blast of snow, or at the very worst, you get some allergies out of it. Like, but all of a sudden, last 15 games, Amed Rosario, 279, 313. Last 7 games, 407, 448, 630. Last 30 games, 370, 311, 402, which is, pretty in line with what he's done the last couple of years. Like, it's just amazing that I know we've done a lot of hand wringing on this show over him, and other places have too, and everybody is just kind of sick of the Amed wars. But, 2 straight games of 3 hits. He had a 4-hit game against Detroit. batting 341, 383, 477 this month. And I don't know, it's like I said, it's like a cocoon, or what do you call that? A butterfly emerging from its cocoon, right? Every May with him. It's ridiculous.
You just know that it's what I talked about at the start. And yeah, I mean, people can talk about how I got, I was ready to send him down for Rocchio, and I still am, but like, I also preached like this is what's going to happen, and then he's going to be red hot for June and July. He'll cool off into August. He'll have kind of a rough August and then a great September. Like, just at the end of the year, he's going to be worth 2 WAR, and he's going to be 100 weighted runs created plus, and
that's fine. That's fine,
but you don't want to pay that.
It's I don't know. Again, it's the same old conversation. I don't really know what anybody's gaining out of a discussion to talk about that. Like, yes, we know everybody knows what Amed Rosario is. He's proving it again. It's literally more predictable than the Mayan calendar that he does this. Like, I guess it is more predictable because the Mayan calendar was pretty wrong. So it's more predictable than.
It wasn't wrong. It was just misinterpreted. Let's be honest. It was just people being dumb.
Maybe we are on our own special brand of hell. I don't know. This should have been a series sweep, I feel like.
Yes.
Friday was a very bizarre game. The offense from catcher has been pretty awful, and we're going to see whatever its confidence meter is after we come back on the other side.
And first, before we come back, we got to talk about our good friends at eBay Motors. For a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors with the eBay Guaranteed Fit. You can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to the My Garage. Look for a green check to know the part will fit or your money back, because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when all the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And then remember to... Oh, I was just going to say, remember to check out this week's upcoming series of games for the Cleveland Guardians on Sirius XM Radio. No game tomorrow, and then it's the White Sox, I do believe, starting Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday.
8-10 Tuesday night, yeah. Tanner Pipe's going 2 starts right now. Shane Bieber, the other killer B in the rotation. Do you want to talk about Clase in general? Do you want to talk about the last play of the 9th inning on Friday night, which kind of rolls into the thing with Clase?
So the thing I will say with Clase is, like, I'm gonna cough first because that's what I do right now on the show. Is he the Clase of a year ago? No, he's definitely looking a lot closer to Joe Borowski than the other Clase, but he's still walking a tightrope. And again, I will reiterate, like everything I talked about with Amed, I was talking about this time a year ago with Clase. It was not till about June that the switch turned on, and people complaining he doesn't miss enough bats for his stuff. Maybe he's not a closer. That's a bad extension. And I was getting those comments even into May. So let's see if he starts to warm up when the weather warms up. And then, maybe I'm going to get accused of being a Clase apologist here, but if Andres Jimenez, will get into that play, if he doesn't misread that play, maybe it's not a blown save. And the hit Ohtani had today, yeah, he gave it back with his bad base running, but there aren't a lot of guys in baseball who can take that pitch where it is at that velocity and hit it hard enough to get a hit. Most guys, that's an easy out. Ohtani is just he's the unicorn of the unicorns. He is, the best player in baseball right now for a reason. And he pulled a hit out of something that shouldn't be there. So I do want to say, yeah, there's reasons for concern. Is he the guy a year ago who was utterly unhittable? No, he's not. Are there reasons to think he might get better? Yes. And were there also this weekend some, he wasn't great, but maybe there were a few extenuating circumstances there as well.
My only thing is this, and they've talked about this. I think I forget who brought it up. Someone asked him about throwing the cutter high in the zone more because they thought he'd get more whiffs on it. And I'm just quickly looking at his heat map on Savant. And if you're looking at like the plots where he throws a lot of strikes, everything is, middle away right now with the cutter. And last year he was kind of all over the place in terms of the strike zone. He was in the middle a little bit. He was high, he was low, and everything is just kind of middle of the way. And he has stayed away from. I don't know. Maybe he's too predictable at the cutter in terms of location. Like guys are just going too much to the cutter. I mean, we talked last year. A lot of people talked last year about him needing to go to the slider more, and he eventually did. And percentage wise, this year he is not throwing the slider as much as he did a year ago. So maybe that's part of it. The funny thing is this year with the cutter, or last year, he's pretty much the same in terms of whiff rate on the cutter. I don't know if he's just more predictable with where he's throwing it, or the location has messed things up. I still think the pitch clock here has something to do with it. But there's nothing in anything he's doing. Like even people who worry about the velocity, he threw 100 on Friday night. He was consistently the bat to Shohei Ohtani, where he was very careful to Shohei, or somebody. There was another pitcher, player at the plate too. He was throwing 100 consistently. So the velocity has not been a concern for him. And I still argue that even though he's averaging 98 versus 99 a year ago, or almost 100 a year ago, that's not that big of a difference. And expected stats, if we're going to believe expected stats, they suggest that he's just every bit as good as he was a year ago. And sometimes he gets unlucky because of the amount of contact he gives up due to that cutter. Instead of it being an out pitch, it's supposed to be a weak contact pitch. But he did give some hard hit balls to Trout this weekend. I think he got a little bit unlucky due to the defense, but it's just been very strange. And I don't know. Hopefully, it's just I don't want to say a sequencing issue, but a location issue. I don't know. I think he'll figure it out. I really don't have a lot of concerns. Like the only thing that stunk on Friday is that was a winnable game, and they came back. They scored enough runs to win that game, and they lost. And that's a painful game to lose when you have your all-star closer on the mound and you have a lead and you're struggling to score runs and put wins together and you lose that game. That was very frustrating, especially when they had a chance in the ninth inning. And what rolls into that is the play with Jimenez too, right? Like after the game, Tito said, I think Jimenez made the right play. He just made a bad throw, which is true. He made a bad throw. And it's easy to second guess this in hindsight, but you throw the ball to first, take the out, because Phil Nevin nearly also blew this game too, because he didn't bring in Brett Phillips to pinch run until a couple of bats in. And this is the other bugaboo with Clase too, is that Phil Nevin eventually figured out, oh, by the way, Emmanuel Clase doesn't hold runners on. And the Guardians can't throw runners out at second base right now. No matter who's catching, they can't throw runners out, which we're going to talk about catching in a little bit too. So he brings in Brett Phillips and starts the runner, and guess what? That kills the double play that could have won the game for the Guardians. So great, eventually Phil Nevin figured out what he was doing at some point, but he exploited their weakness. Clase doesn't hold runners on. So like when Clase doesn't let runners on, things are great. So I think maybe the whole issue with him is this runner's getting on base. That's where he struggles. I don't know, but like I said, Jimenez could have thrown to first base, gotten the out, and then instead of the next ball being a sac fly that takes the lead, it's out number 3, and you're going to the bottom of the ninth inning, tied 4-4. So he could have gone the safe route. I guess he was hoping to, and like Tito said, if he makes that play at home ever and somehow it saved the game. I don't know. It's, darned if you do, darned if you don't, to keep it, PG on here. But I guess sometimes playing it safe, you gotta make the right fundamental play when you're because when you make the wrong fundamental play with the way this team is going, everything is more magnified and the struggles hurt a little more.
Yes, it's totally one of those things where if he makes that throw to home and he nails it, they win the game, and it's a nice easy situation. And I get why people are mad, and at the same time, I also look at it as like, it's kind of the same point of them not running. Like, is this one of the situations where maybe he forces the throw because of their struggles? Like, is he like so? Like, how much of is everything weighing down on this team or not? And if it is that affecting sometimes that thought choice? And again, you have a Gold Glove second baseman who's got a cannon arm. You kind of expect him to be able to make that play. It goes sideways, but I would like to see them. I don't have a problem with that attempt from a guy like him. And sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you don't. I also would put him in fine going to first. I had a hard time getting too ticked off. It was a bad throw. Don't get me wrong. It was a terrible throw. But at least I could understand why. It wasn't a situation unlike when he dives into first base, when I have no idea why. Not that happened this weekend, but,
Thankfully.
Yeah.
Really quickly, your 3 stars of the weekend. Let's see. Josh Naylor, Tanner Bybee, right?
More or less. It's, you look at these games and yeah, I mean, Bybee and Naylor have to be it. And then I was just kind of like, I kind of feel like it's got to be Jose. His ERA, he doesn't have an ERA. His OPS entering this weekend was below 800. It was like 780 something. It's up to 821. He's got the 25th best OPS in baseball after the end of this series. So even though he's maybe not as sexy as some of the other guys are for a choice for this one, because he didn't have the home run, Jimenez also had a home run for the next day. He just got on base and he found ways. It's like he had a hit and a walk on Sunday. In the Saturday game, he had 2 hits. One of them, I believe, was a double. And then in the Friday loss, he reached base with 2 hits and a walk. And then today, I actually I left off the intentional walk. So he reached base, I think, 3 times in every game. So
yeah,
Jose.
That's a Naylor, Jose, and Tanner
and
for sure.
Bybee.
Which is yes. All right. To the catching situation a little bit, confidence meter, some quotes about game times, and the division rival loses a player to Tommy John in just a second. No game Monday, but don't forget Tuesday night, 8:10 first pitch at Chicago. Check out Tom Hamilton and the crew on Sirius XM if you're listening to the game. Jeff, it is getting rough behind home plate. Someone pointed this out to me on Twitter after I tweeted some stuff about Bo Naylor on Saturday, because Bo Naylor had a great weekend, and we'll talk about that a little bit. The Guardians have not had a hit from their catcher since April 29th. That was Mike Zunino's go-ahead RBI double in the Boston game that Saturday. Since that game, Mike Zunino's 0 for 23. Cam Gallagher is 0 for 31. Cam Gallagher only has 2 hits all season long, actually. So, I guess this is what I don't know. Maybe I know we talked a lot about the positives of Zunino over the offseason, and maybe we overlooked some things. I guess it was hard to know what to expect. Maybe I feel like we mentioned, we don't know what it's going to look like when he returns from this surgery because it's a complicated situation. Is this the result of the surgery, or is this just who he is?
Both. I mean, this is who he is to a degree. I think the surgery has definitely made it rough. I mean, he didn't play baseball for like a year, essentially, very limited a year ago, but he has always been streaky. And remember when he was this team's best hitter for the first month? Now he's their worst hitter. And also point out, though, like for all of his issues, still 5th on this team in OPS versus lefties. He hits lefties better than Jose, better than Jose Ramirez does right now. I'm sure that's gonna, that could totally start to sink even more. But they brought him in to hit lefties. He's still, I mean, he's not necessarily he doesn't have a high batting average, but he's at least being productive on.
Well, we know that was never going to happen. Batting average was not a thing you're ever going to boast. But he had 216 in 2021. We had that great year, but it was the 559 slugging percentage you looked at, and you were like, okay, 33 home runs. That's what you want out of him. And the defense is definitely a mess. But you just said he plays against lefties very well. Does this not open up an opportunity for a platoon with Bo Naylor? Like if Zunino can hit lefties just fine, how do you not find time for a split between him and Bo Naylor? I'm not saying you would strictly play Naylor or Zunino against lefties, but because I know the Guardians just faced a stretch of lefties that's been ridiculous, but they are seeing a lot of lefties out of the bullpen because teams know they can't hit them. But how do you not see a natural platoon here? Like you can easily ease in Naylor to the start of his career. Although Naylor did hit 2 home runs this weekend off of Andrew Abbott, who has been striking everybody out at AA and AAA since the start of the season. And the second one was a 107-mile-an-hour rocket.
But he's a Virginia guy, so we know he's not any good as a pitcher. So.
Oh, man. All right. Well, hey, tell that to the Reds.
It'll fall apart before he gets to the big leagues. That's how it works. ask Royals fans how that worked with Daniel Lynch.
Well, look, he struck everybody out. He's striking everybody out.
No, yeah.
And Naylor hit him. But, like, you could easily see a world where Naylor plays 3 days a week and Zunino plays 4, and maybe you can even DH Naylor a day, especially if you still have David Fry on the roster, who I guess is still on the roster, even though he
Is he? Are we sure?
He's taken the Maybray's Valoria role over. Yeah, I don't know.
I did not see him this past weekend. I thought maybe he just took a weekend to calm down after his first hit. He was just so psyched. I mean, you can, but I think a lot of this comes down to they're still going to be in the process of making sure that they're going to be. And I know he's on the roster and he's had his time, but that's another reason that they might wait for service time. And they have always, and I know there's people out there screaming that like service time is not that big of a deal, but like this team has always played very tight with service time and things like this. So I think right now the only thing holding back Bo Naylor is worry about Super 2. I think that's it. I think that's the only reason you don't go to him right now, because yeah, Cam Gallagher is fine defensively, but you know, him and Austin Hedges are battling for the title of who can't hit the baseball the most. And Zunino, they're paying a decent chunk of money, and he still is at least effective against lefties, which is useful. So I don't know. And again, we know this is what he does. He'll probably come back in June and be on fire, but he is back and forth. But it's just a matter of like, there isn't a good reason to not.
Great. So if you face a lefty, then guess what? You can DH David Fry and catch Zunino and have Naylor on the bench as security or as a pinch hitter. Like, boom, figure.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm not arguing with you. I'm just saying the only thing holding him back.
I know. I make it sound easy. I wouldn't say it's just Super 2 either. I will point out, because there are a lot of people who are screaming, over the weekend, why isn't he up? Because I posted about how good his weekend was, because he had a really good Saturday night.
There's still things that we know that they want him to work on, and we don't know.
Well, he's 5 of like 38 throwing runners out this year. So I promised some people on Twitter that I would go and look back at some video from this year to see why he is having such a hard time throwing runners out, because the rules in AAA aren't new. Like the pitch clock and the disengagement rule, those have been in AAA before this. So it's not like that's new to him. And I want to see, like, are the pitchers in AAA so bad that they're not giving him time to throw to second? I just want to see what's going on, because the arm strength is not a question with him. But I mean, maybe that there's part of that there, right? Like maybe they wanted to throw runners out more because he's struggling. He hasn't had a great year statistically, and last year he was fine at it. So maybe that's it. But there's a lot more context that goes into that, because as we've seen, the pitchers in Cleveland have sandbagged the catchers repeatedly in terms of being able to control the run game, because they don't get to the plate or they don't check runners. I mean, it's seriously, next time you're watching a game and you see a runner take off, before you say, Zunino or Gallagher can't throw guys out, look if the pitcher is even paying attention to the runner. Look if he throws over once. See how quick he's going to the plate, because I'm not saying Zunino's been great, because he hasn't been defensively. Neither is Gallagher, and Naylor might have the same problem. But just look very closely next time at a stolen base and see if the pitcher is giving him any chance, because this has been a problem for 99, for Stefan, for Clase. Bieber does a great job with it. He's fantastic. Plesac's always been great at it. But see which guys are sandbagging the catcher, because I wonder if that's more of a pitcher issue than it is a catcher.
And that's fair. And that is very fair. I think that is definitely one of those things that is underrated, is how bad the bullpen is at holding guys, and many of the starters.
That's a big problem, because when you let runners on and the runners on that late in the game, and we know 99 has problems when runners get on. We know Clase does. Like it gets compounded, which they took advantage of Friday. You want to read the quote about the start time of Sunday's game real quick?
I don't know if listen. I don't have it pulled up currently, but it's just the complaining from the Angels about how they're not
promised.
I didn't. I just, like with the Miles Straw quote, I'll paraphrase. Basically, them complaining, saying it's hard for them to get used to. And it's not fair to have a West Coast team travel and have an early game, and that's an unfair advantage. I mean, I get that it's unfair, but like, listen, you're dealing with 3-hour differences all the time. I think they'd be a little bit used to it, and it's not like the Guardians pick what game is flexed out to Peacock.
That's the other thing I wanted to bring up too. I know people were mad about them playing on Peacock, but at the same time, because someone's like, "Oh, they don't know how to reach their fans." MLB decides when these networks decide who gets flexed into these. So the Guardians have very little control for this. And I will say, for the Angels' sake, like, this would be an 8:30. It was an 8:30 start back in LA. So all the families and fans of Patrick Sandoval and Tanner Bybee had to get up pretty early to watch this game, and they were celebrating on Mother's Day with kegs and eggs watching these two pitch, right?
Potentially, I
not you.
But yeah, no, it's Listen, it was great to see them. It was the best possible outcome for me because I have Sandoval on my So Rare team. He pitched great, and the Guardians still picked up a win. So I'm pretty happy at that.
We did. Real quickly in passing before we get out of here, Tyler Mahle out again, or now is out for the season and half of next year probably with Tommy John. So that I believe Kenta Maeda is still in the IL for the Twins, right? He's hurt
think
too?
So. Last time I checked.
Although they won, I know they won big today against the Cubs, but Twins are slowly losing some pitchers to injury, so something to keep an eye on. They don't see the Twins again though until June, so you got the whole month to go, and we'll see what happens with the White Sox. The White Sox haven't announced any starters. Real quickly, we'll talk about this more tomorrow, but I'll just tease it for now. I'll ask Jeff tomorrow as well. I asked you on Twitter. We got a good solid amount of votes here. Confidence meter and the Guardians starting to turn this thing around and look like they should look. After a 5-4 homestand, they won 2 out of 3 series. I broke it up into, 1 being the least confident, 10 being the most confident that they're starting to move in the right direction. And 74% of the votes said 5-7. So they're right in the middle. A lot of even keel people, I would say. We had a couple of votes for 8-10, which is surprising. 18% said 1-4. They're not very confident that this is it. I think probably those people need to see more, but we can get into that more on Tuesday's show, along with the preview of the series against the White Sox.
Yeah, and I did I think I might have mentioned this. I did a podcast with a Crystal Chicago White Sox podcaster. I will be tweeting that out on Tuesday. We had a just fun even keel talk. If you want to talk about fan bases that are really depressed and have a bad feeling about their team, it is the Chicago White Sox right now.
Yeah, check on your friends who are White Sox fans. They are not okay. Like, there were people who were like, I think even our own Lockdown White Sox host, Nick, was like, they wanted the team to tank and just blow up because they're like, at least that way the guys will get fired and they can start over, and maybe guys, they can try something new. Like, they feel like if they continue in the same direction, things being mediocre, that nothing will ever change and get better. So like, they're rooting for their own team to crash and burn. That's never a good sign. And, I feel bad for Nick and those guys, even though as a Guardians fan base, we should not, because the Guardians need all the help they can get within the division.
Yeah, hey, they're the only mediocre offense in the division right now. So there is that. But yeah, we'll talk about them tomorrow. So we'll do that. Remember, this is where I tell you to rate and review, subscribe, comment, get a friend to listen, all that fun stuff. Remember to do your routines over that help us through the downloads, daily downloads, those clicking the thumbs up, leaving comments. Thank you for being a part of the Locked On Guardians team. Thank you to our everydayers. I noticed one of our everydayers, John Fagan, is a fellow teacher, as is Aaron. Is Aaron? I think Aaron might be a teacher as well, who's our Virginia fan, who will enjoy me making fun of Virginia on the show. So thank you to last week was Teacher Appreciation Week. So any of you others who are teachers like myself, make sure to comment below so we can give you a shout out specifically amongst those everydayers who are teachers as they count down towards the end of the school year. Right now, I'm sure many are, but thank you for all you do, and go Guardians, go.
Happy Mother's Day too.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day. Yeah, more importantly, happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. If you're a mother, comment below. We don't get a lot of ladies. I'll be honest, not as many ladies in the comments. It looks like my Quiz Bowl teams when I was in high school there. So go, let us know.
I'm getting married, so it's fine. But if you're a lady who listens, happy Mother's Day.
Yes.
Or happy mothers of all the people who do listen. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, people with mothers who do listen.
Happy Mother's Day to Betty Enright, right? That's her first day, Mrs.
Yes.
Yes. Maybe the one mother who probably listens.
Our official mother of the podcast, yeah.
Official mother of the podcast. But thank you to her, and we hope that Nick shoves all year in the best possible way. But go Guardians, go.